Elio's Crescendo. In a town wound tight with the metronomic tick of clocks and the predictable chime of bells lived Elio. His own heart, a syncopated rhythm against the town's rigid tempo, had fallen silent of late. He was a composer, becalmed in a sea of blank staves. Then, one twilight, a plain box appeared on his doorstep, a stark, unadorned cube against the evening's violet diminuendo. Inside lay not just a pizza, but a proposition. Its cheese was the color of a curdled sky, its aroma a forgotten, atonal scent. And yet it held a profound potential, a silent, gravid whole note promising a symphony yet to be scored. Elio carried the box inside, setting it on his grand piano as if it were a new libretto. Up close, the strangeness resolved into intricate detail. Dotted across the pallid disc were tiny, exquisitely carved chairs of ebony and ivory, like a miniature orchestra pit. On each sat a mouse, not of flesh, but of polished hematite, still and silent. The pizza itself emanated a low, melancholic hum, the drone of a single, sustained cello string, a desolate half-note of sorrow that resonated deep in Elio's own quiet emptiness. This was no meal for the body, but a feast for a famished spirit. He understood. One does not consume a masterpiece. One cultivates it. He would not raise a fork, but a baton. He would raise the pizza itself from its muted grief. Forsaking his flute for the directness of his own voice, he hummed a single, tentative pitch. It was a simple, foundational sound, a lone quarter note of inquiry, testing the room's acoustics and the pizza's soul. A response. A subtle, sympathetic vibration shivered through the piano's frame. Encouraged, Elio let the single note unfold into a gentle legato phrase, a flowing stream of eighth notes that cleansed the air of its stale silence. On the pizza, a flicker. The hematite mice, once dull, now caught the lamplight with a glint of inner fire. The cheese itself seemed to sigh, its surface swirling in a slow, viscous glissando of texture, leaning into the melody as if starved for it. A laugh escaped Elio's lips, a sound sharp and percussive. "Allegro!" he cried, grabbing his violin. He launched into a frantic, joyful tune, a cascade of staccato 16th notes that danced and ricocheted around the room. The old sorrow was banished, replaced by a manic, creative glee. The pizza began to breathe, its crust rising and falling in a steady, life-giving andante, the rhythm of a heart finding its beat. The pizza swelled, a living thing born of dough and desire. The crust puffed into a golden-brown dome, warm and fragrant. The cheese became a swirling nebula of vibrant hues, a visual arpeggio of color. The hematite mice, now animated, leaped from their chairs, executing a silent, frenetic ballet across the bubbling surface. This was not just happiness, it was a full-throated crescendo, building from a gentle piano to a triumphant forte. But in his ecstasy, Elio pushed too far. He drove the tempo faster, an accelerando into madness, demanding more, always more. He added a crashing chord on the piano with his free hand, a sudden, brutal sforzando. It was too much. The sympathetic vibrations, so gentle before, became a violent assault. With a sickening pizzicato pluck, a cello string in the corner snapped. The sound was a jarring, dissonant cluster chord, an acoustic wound in the fabric of the song. The music died. The pizza convulsed. It deflated with a wet, sighing sound, the vibrant colors bleeding away into that familiar corpse-like gray, the life, the magic, the music, all gone. The dancing mice froze, their metallic sheen extinguished, before scurrying to hide beneath their chairs like frightened soloists. The silence that descended was not mere quiet. It was an absolute void, a grand pause, a long and agonizing rest measured in heartbeats of regret. Elio's own composition, his masterpiece, lay ruined. The fault was his. He had tried to dictate the song, to force his own frantic ego onto this delicate creation. He set his violin down with the reverence of a eulogy. Kneeling, he offered no melody, no rhythm, no clever phrasing. He simply hummed, a low, resonant drone, a sound of pure contrition. It was a music of listening, not of speaking, a formata of feeling, held not for account, but for as long as forgiveness might take. Slowly, a soft, warm light bloomed from the pizza's center. It began to rise, not with the manic energy of before, but with the calm, steady ostinato of a living pulse. The mice crept out, not to dance, but to sit peacefully on their chairs, attentive. The pizza was alive again, but different. It was not his creation anymore. It was its own, and from it came a new sound, a gentle, contented hum. The quiet, perfect coda to a song of its own making.